Splendid, excellent. Well, welcome to you one and all to the Commit Happy Hour, Friday the 22nd of May. Myself and your host Stuart Young here, welcoming Andrew Lambert and James Ellis to talk to us a little bit about an app that will help us to socially distance more within the construction industry. They are to be congratulated, I think, on some funding that might be coming their way to help them to deliver this. I've got to say, having been involved in quite a few bids out there that were unsuccessful, I'm very jealous. Well done, gentlemen. This is very, very good indeed. And really looking forward to today to finding out a lot more about it. So before we start that, I'm going to hand you over to Stuart, who's going to run through a little bit about the productivity community and also to talk to you today a little bit about the webinar we have for you. So over to you, Stuart.
Thanks, Ian. Welcome to everybody that's joined. Really appreciate it. I hope you'll be very informed at the end of this session. There is an opportunity to ask some questions. In just a moment, I'll explain that. A little bit about Commit. Commit is a collaboration platform, bringing together people from academia, bringing people together from industry, construction, owner-operators, and solution providers. And this is a platform that's been around for 17 years. We were originally a DTI-funded project, and we've done several projects since. And we're just about to talk about another project in a second or two. But first, I'll just take you through the slides and talk about the questions. There is an opportunity to ask questions, and we've got various means to do that. If you would like to raise your hand during the question time, we could bring you in, we can open the mic, and you can ask the correct question directly to the presenter, Andrew. Or you can type your questions in the question box, and I can pick them up at the end. And we've got another facility that we've used very successfully now a couple of times, which is the continue the conversation at the end. And we ran that last week, and I think that was fairly successful, listening to what people said. It's very relaxed, and it's an opportunity to speak directly to the individuals on the panel. We've also got some poll questions, and I'm going to open up, rather than do them at the end, I'm going to do them at the beginning this time. And give you an opportunity just to share some opinion and view. So before I get to that, I want to talk about the productivity initiative that Commit has been running. It's an area where individual members of Commit can get involved. It looks at what productivity means to you. In your organizations, do you have the means to improve productivity? Do you need some help with that? It also looks at what else is out there, making a difference in other industries, and how it can help you, us, the community, and beyond to improve. If you have any suggestions, you'd like to get involved in the Commit to Productivity initiative, or indeed you have a project idea, then please do get in touch. And the areas that we've been looking at, I won't read through those, but we've covered several already in the presentations we've been doing in the past 9 weeks. We do intend to cover some more. If you've got any ideas, please drop me a line, and we can get you guys involved. So I'd really appreciate a bit of feedback on what you see. Maybe you've got some other suggestions for other areas that I've not covered, but please do get in touch. So I mentioned about continuing the conversation. We've got an opportunity at the end. Again, jump in, stay behind for an extra 30 minutes. It's a lock-in, it's a free bar. It's a very relaxed atmosphere, and it's a bit of fun, but also hopefully informative as well. So please do stay behind if you could, or if you can. I want to talk about today's session, COVID-19. This is a project that we're about to start. I won't steal Andrew's thunder by mentioning any more. He's got quite a lot to tell you, but it's about getting people back to work. It's an opportunity to partner, to get some users involved, and help form this project from the ground up. I have some poll questions, and if you just bear with me a second, These are sort of icebreakers, but let me just launch the first one while I've got everybody. I did this at the end last week, and we had a bit of a delay in getting them launched, so I've decided to do them at the beginning this week. So here's your first question. It should appear on the screen any second. Where are you on your COVID-19 journey? Should see that now.
Yeah, got it. I can't vote.
No, I can't vote.
No, it's greyed out.
Yeah, that's all right. That's only because we're organisers and panelists.
You can tell me afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay, another couple of seconds. I'll close that and I'll share it. Interesting replies. Okay. Close and share.
Oh.
Wow. I'm really impressed that people have started to embrace that new reality already. But then I suppose that is the kind of people that commit members are very much in that world already. So
yeah. Andrew, did you have a comment to make on this? Because I think this was borrowed, I think is the correct word, borrowed from another organisation.
So I join a weekly webinar that's run by KPMG, and they ask this question. So they're in week 10 or week 9 of running this webinar, and they ask this question every week. And the poll this week, over 2/3 of people were either in recovery or in new reality. So I'm impressed to see that we're up at 59%, so nearly 60%. So we're not that far behind the general population.
Thanks, Andrew. Okay, next question. I have 2 more questions. Has your organisation started the return to work? Distributing now.
Quite an interesting one, and I suppose it will all depend on your type of organisation. Whereas a company that does mainly consultancy or in meetings that can be done over the phone or over will be fine. But those who have to do practical things like building something or working as a team to deliver something, I'd say will probably be coming back earlier. But interesting.
We should have probably had an option that said didn't actually stop.
Well, yes.
So 25% no, 75% yes.
That's good.
Question been raised as well.
And I'm impressed that nobody didn't know.
Yes, I've got a question from Peter. Peter Canal. Yes, Peter, it should show the confirmation on the screen. But just for your benefit, if you can't see it, 25% said no, 75% yes. I'm sorry if you can't see that. Okay, and the next question is, what are your main concerns about returning to work? I hope everybody can see that.
It's tough.
Pity there isn't an option for all of the above.
No, there could be a few selected based on what's the main concern, couldn't it? But yeah, it's right.
Okay, another couple of seconds. People still voting. Okay, and I'll share that. So, what are your thoughts on that, guys? Andrew?
Well, interesting that it's the ability to social distance is a leader by a long way, isn't it?
Yeah.
No concerns about masks or PPE, so that's encouraging.
Well, it's interesting because that was the kind of the initial thing for everybody right at the very beginning. The fact that there wouldn't be enough masks and things, and I think the sort of the original direction from the scientific community was that masks wouldn't help you as such, and I could sort of see that it's only if you are directly linked to somebody who has the virus, stopping you from spreading it to them, etc. Would be the thing on there. But that is interesting. I wonder whether we will be asked to wear masks when people go back to work. I don't know.
I think what's interesting on there is the fact that from the very first beginning of the COVID-19, the first key factor was that everybody should keep 2 meter distances was the first thing. Talks of PPE and family members, and they're all part and parcel, but social distancing has been the number one underlining rule from the start. So we've all got it embedded into us at the moment, and that is a key factor.
Yeah, they were saying on the radio yesterday that that this 2 meter rule has come from, or recommendation came from some work maybe 30 odd years ago into the spread of flu, and there's actually been no research on whether 2 meters is good or bad for coronavirus.
That's very interesting.
Thank you, Peter. Peter Jarman drops in with productivity, concerns about productivity drop. Valid point, Peter. Thanks for that.
Yeah, a lot of discussion about the pubs when they reopen. Will they have enough business to justify the costs?
Yeah.
Wow.
So the title today, you're going to hear from Andrew in a second about this innovative and ambitious project. It's developed jointly with EMS and COMIT, and we believe it meets the needs of the construction sector to safely resume work. The sector is a significant contributor to the economy, produces about 10% of the UK's economic output. Coronavirus needs no explanation. It's had a dramatic impact on many construction organisations and associated infrastructure builders, with staff being furloughed, etc. Companies really want projects to restart as soon as possible. They want it done in a safe way, and of course, measures need to be in place to make sure everybody's protected. So we believe this project that we've got planned tackles the problems and deals with getting people back to work safely. Now, we can't do this without users, and really at the end of this, we're going to be making an appeal for people to get involved, organisations to get involved and contribute, build this thing from the ground up. So if you are interested, there is some information at the end which we'll share, and we'll get back to you once people have registered. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you on to Andrew, introduce Andrew, and then we can take it into the main session. So just bear with me a second. I've got a slide freeze. I don't know what you can see on the screen, but there we are. So Andrew, Andrew's the CEO and founder of EMS. And the founder and CEO of FIBRE Limited. Andrew is a chartered engineer and a fellow of the Institute of Engineering Technology. He was a member of the COMIT steering group from 2007 to 2011. In 1995, Andrew founded EMS, a technology consultancy and telecoms company which manufactures the award-winning IMO, 4G, 5G, WAN router, appliances and associated OptiBond software defined networking. That's a mouthful. Andrew is a founder, as I mentioned, of the and CEO of the fibre company that installs fibre broadband to new housing developments. And incidentally, Andrew was involved in a project way back that launched communications when communications became a problem. It was a COMIT project. Communications became a problem with the main provider not doing what they'd always done and expecting communications to be installed, and Andrew came to the aid of the industry, I think it's fair to say. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Andrew.
So you're going to make me the presenter then?
Andrew, it's all yours.
So how do you make me the presenter?
Just like that.
All right, I'll show you my screen then. So can you see the slide?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. And you're not seeing the presenter screen, presumably just the slide.
Just the slide, yeah.
Excellent. As Stuart said, I'm Andrew Lambert, and we put in a bid for some Innovate UK funding for helping the industry get back to work. Why did I conceive the project? Well, I think we're going to live with COVID-19 for a long time. It was interesting, as I said on the KPMG call this week, that more and more people are moving into what they call the new reality. There's a lot of discussion about working from home and whether this is going to have a dramatic impact on the amount of office space that's going to be required in future. People are certain that the surveys that KPMG have done have shown that some organisations are now starting from a working from home first principle. So their assumption is people will work from home and only a smaller number will come in. Some industries have been really badly affected by the virus and will take years to recover. The obvious ones clearly are anything to do with the hotel and leisure industry. But interestingly, last week there was an aerospace company in the Midlands, a manufacturer. They've actually made about 60% of their staff redundant, because there's been such a drop in the demand for aero engine products that they just didn't think it was worth keeping people on the furlough scheme, because they couldn't see that the industry would recover this year. Construction's generally viewed as a low risk environment, certainly because a lot of the activity can and does happen outside. And as Stuart said, we're involved in fibre to new home projects, and we have our office is actually based on at a site where there's a big regeneration project. So all of the house builders shut up shop on the day that the lockdown was announced, and the site was effectively closed, apart from the ground workers who were putting in all of the utility corridors. They continued to work in putting in the roads and the other hard infrastructure. Oh, I don't seem to be advancing. Let me. Can you see what? Can you still on the first slide?
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've gone to the other slide on my other screen, which is interesting.
That might be so now that's fine. So
yeah.
Now we're seeing your screen. So do you onto?
There we go. There we go. I've moved my mouse back onto this screen, and now it works. So so we should be on a screen on the slide that says that we're a manufacturer of. Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. As Stuart said, I founded EMS back in '95, when we focused on providing communications at remote and temporary locations. Nowadays, our business is building cellular routers, IoT gateways. One of the first projects that we did when the company first started was a project with COMIT, which was about rapid site setup. And our IMO product, which stood for Intelligent Mobile Office, was a project that we developed with COMIT. And Jackson's Civil Engineering. So Neil, if you know him, when he was there. This is a project we developed with them. We do a lot of stuff around edge computing devices now, and we started a business or an activity installing fibre to the premise at new housing developments, and that has now been spun out into a new company called FIBRE Limited. And we install, as I say, installing fibre to new housing developments. So we have quite a lot of home builders who are our customers. So the background to this was that Innovate UK came up with a fast track call for projects. The calls were it was actually announced on the 6th of April, so just before Easter. There was 2 weeks before to think about projects and put a bid together, and I had a chat with Stuart and we submitted a bid in time, which was by the Friday just after after Easter. The original proposal from Innovate UK was that they would fund up to that the fund was 20 million, and they would on that basis fund about 400 projects. They were going to announce the winners by the 1st of May. So you can see this was a very fast track process. So that because they would have, if they'd met that deadline, they would have done everything in about just over 4 weeks. They had over 8,600 applications. So they had informed us on the 1st of May that this might take them a little longer to review all the applications. And we heard last Friday, so 1 week ago, that our project bid had been successful and that we've got funding. They've actually funded 800 projects, and the pot was increased from 20 million to 40 million. So our idea was to come up with a system that would help get construction back and working, really using a combination of Bluetooth tracking, an app where people can do some self-declaration of their any health conditions, use the Bluetooth to do some alerting when there are too many people in an area, so to help with that social distancing, to be able to give notifications about whether welfare units are full, or whether there's a space for you to go and use them, and then also to provide an alerting capability to the user if one of the people that they've been in contact has started to report symptoms. From the management point of view, the system would show location of workers on the site, provides some heat map information so that management could identify if there were any hotspots on the site, so that they could organise, maybe replan the work to spread workers out. It would give real-time notification of where too many people were congregating, and the current occupancy levels of any welfare units. And it would be able to see whether any workers had reported symptoms. And interestingly, researching for this, I've discovered that there is a requirement on organisations to report via the RIDDOR system any exposure to coronavirus in any work environment, in fact. So the reason, the thinking behind this was that it's been shown out in Asia that these sort of tracking type applications had quite a lot of positive impact in reducing the rate at which the virus is communicated, and probably China is the one that leads the world. In China, there's an application called WeChat, which is a sort of equivalent of WhatsApp, but it's more advanced than WhatsApp in that it includes mini programs, and people can pay electronically. They can order taxis, they can order takeaway food, so it's like a little mini ecosystem. And one of the applications that was put out on WeChat was actually this Resume to School app here that's shown here. So this asks them to complete their symptoms every day, and then we'll give them a QR code that they can show when they arrive at school to show whether they're able to enter. Most of the tracking apps across China either display a green QR code if you're deemed to be safe. They show an amber code if you should be isolating, and a red code and a red QR code if you should be definitely at home. Of course, in the West, there's been a lot of other work been going on about building tracking apps. So there's the Apple and Google contact tracing solution, where of course in China there are no issues about privacy. So everybody has an ID card. The apps are all tied to ID cards. And there are no issues about privacy. You just sometimes you can't even take a long distance train in China without an ID card. So privacy is never an issue. In the Apple Google app tries to ensure that no personal identifying information is shared. So they've developed a Bluetooth system where when phones are close together, you will get a unique identifier of that other person's phone, and should that person in the future report COVID symptoms, you will get an alert. To sort of ensure the security that no data is stored up in the cloud, and the identification packets that are broadcast by the Bluetooth are rotated on a regular basis. So you can't say that I've seen Bluetooth identification 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've seen it here in Hampshire, then get on a train and go up to London. The codes are rotated about once an hour or so, so it's actually quite difficult to track individual users, which is has been one of the concerns. The downside of the Apple Google system is that it is only available to health authorities. There's no access to the APIs or anything for any other organizations or users. So that's probably that clearly isn't a good route for a sort of industry-wide solution. The NHS have been trialing their app on the Isle of Wight at the moment. They've taken a slightly different approach in that it is it also uses Bluetooth identifiers to track whether you've been in contact with people, but they store the data back in the cloud. Again, the Cyber Security Centre here in the UK have looked at this and said that it's unlikely that there is any personal identifying information. The trial on the Isle of Wight has had some shortcuts made to get it into market quickly enough, and actually the codes are only rotated every 24 hours, so it would be possible to track individuals' movements within that 24-hour window. The advantage of the Google Apple approach is they're actually building the Bluetooth capability in at the operating system level on the phone. So this means that it will continue to work when the apps have gone into the background or your phone's actually gone to sleep. The NHS, because they're not using the Apple Google approach, have to force the Bluetooth to be active even when the phone has gone to sleep. So there are some concerns about how this is going to work long term on iOS, the Apple environment, because they're very aggressive about shutting down background applications to save battery life. That I think it'll be interesting to see from the Isle of Wight trials whether they really have solved that background issue and what effect it has on battery life. So taking all that into account, and the other thing that has come up is that in some countries the take up of these tracking apps has actually been very low. the most notable one is probably Singapore. In Singapore is a very compliant society. When the government says to its citizens, you should do this, they always, nearly always, tend to follow what the government wants them to do. But actually in Singapore, their tracking app was only downloaded by 20% of the population, which is just too low to do any tracking. And they've actually had to go to a completely different approach. Now in Singapore, when you arrive at a public venue, you actually have to scan a QR code to gain entry. So they've turned the system the other way around. So our thinking was that actually there's a whole raft, that there are a raft of Bluetooth wearables that are now available on the market, which could be used as the basis for a tracking app for people while they are at work. So we don't envisage this system would track people outside the work environment. It would only track people while they're at work. So I've put a few examples on the screen here. The left-hand one could be like a either hung on a pendant or attached to a belt. The middle one is actually a very low-cost smartwatch, and the one on the right is just one of a sort of cheap fitness band. So I have some of these devices, which are low-cost fitness bands from China. They retail for around about £10, about $15, I think they are at retail price in China. So they're incredibly cheap. They are almost a disposable item. So that was the idea. The idea was that we could, rather than relying on people's phones, we could actually do the tracking based upon an active device on the person. The other idea was that the day, I'm just going to move the thing on my screen so that I can see the rest of the slide. So the idea is that in the morning the user would open the app on their phone. They would complete a very simple questionnaire. So, do they have any symptoms? Does anybody in their household have any recognized COVID symptoms? And this would give them a sort of red-green check whether they were fit to go to work. And that data would be uploaded to the cloud. Then when they get to the site, then they would need to be wearing their Bluetooth device, and that would then be able to track them around the site. It would track which other workers they've come in contact with. And we would do this by using Bluetooth beacons connected by a LORAWAN network. So this means they would all be relatively low power. They could run off batteries or little solar cells for some time without needing the batteries to be replaced, and you wouldn't need to run wires all over the site to connect all of the Bluetooth beacons. And of course, the devices would talk amongst themselves, so they'd effectively build a mesh of Bluetooth devices. So if the Bluetooth beacon was only visible halfway into a building or halfway into an area, as long as one person is in contact with that beacon, then the other users in that area would connect via the devices in the middle. Probably the difference that we would give is the most interesting difference that we have with the other apps, the NHS app or the Google app, is we would actually give a real-time alert, so that if there were too many people in an area which had, and that level would be set by management, then it could alert the users and say, actually, I think you should leave this area and perhaps go and work somewhere else. And at the end of the day, as they exit the site, a lot of this data would be uploaded to the cloud. From the management point of view, the management portal would be able to produce heat maps and reporting, so it could show where users are congregating or where workers are congregating, so that management could look at this and go that we need to replan the work program so that we could spread workers out. It would also identify any hot corridors where you have a lot of people moving along a single transit corridor, so that you could again try to add additional entry and exit routes to a work area. It would also give the users, the manager side, access to some sort of status of where their workers are. So if Fred hasn't turned up that day, you could know that it's because he's self-isolating. And it would help generate the reports that required for any RIDDOR reporting to the HSE. So as I said, this was a joint bid to Innovate UK with COMIT. Stuart and I have spent long discussions on the phone working out working on this on the project proposal. We put it in as the project lead. It's a short-term project. The funding is only for 5 months. So we need to adapt and adopt an agile, rapid development process. And we're really seeking industry partners to help input with the functional spec, work with the industry to understand the GDPR requirements, any analytics. Should the device the wearer use monitor temperature is one interesting thing, because a temperature is a known indicator of a user's health. So if it was a watch or one of the fitness bands, some of these come with temperature and heart rate monitors. Should the user be able to be identified by their CSCS card ID? I don't know. I think it's a question for the industry. Once the funding for the project has finished, what should the business model be? How would we get this into a sustainable state so that it would be that is acceptable for the industry? Is there a model where the user buys the bracelet, or is it just a subscription service where the bracelet and all of the software just comes with a low monthly subscription? And obviously, as we start building the environment, we need to have people who will test the web app, the management portal, the Bluetooth wearables. We could probably source a number of different types and have people test them. Is the battery life what they need to be, or are there any issues? And ideally, we'd like to sort of deploy it and test it at a live construction site. And finally, obviously, promotes the results of the project out to the wider construction community. And with that, I'm finished. Questions?
Thank you very much, Andrew. That was very comprehensive. Yeah, very informative. And you're not wrong. We did have many discussions, some of them quite late at night, and they were very long. But pleased to say that this will hopefully lead somewhere positive. So anyway, I've got some questions that I've got in front of me, which I'm going to kick off with. Ian, we're going to share these, I think, aren't we? So let me just go with the first one. What's the earliest the app will be ready to roll out?
Well, as I said, I think we would definitely adopt an agile approach, so we try to get as much functionality out as quickly as possible. I think the sort of web report, the sort of instant questionnaire to say whether a worker feels fit to come to work, you could probably get out within a month. And some of them, and a very simple management portal. And we would then start adding features as we can. So I would hope we would have a rolling weekly release of updates.
Okay, great. Ian, do you want to pose the next question?
I'm having access. I'm having difficulty accessing the questions, Stuart. So
okay. Don't worry.
You might have to just copy and paste them on. Technical workaround, of course. Copy and paste them onto an email.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I've got okay. One question I've got here. Sorry, go on, James.
So I've got a question. Just I'm intrigued. So obviously that you've talked about the NHS app
Yep.
and the Google Android app, Google and Apple app, sorry. Where does this fit in between? So obviously there's going to be pros and cons. Where does this, I mean, I know this sounds a daft question, but let's be honest, when this app is created and it's finished, you're going into the app store, you've got an NHS app, I've got an Android and Apple app that's doing what they're going to do with the Bluetooth 2 meters, and we've got your app. It's like when you go onto the app stores and you look for Excel and then you get the similar Excel. It's not Excel, but it's similar. How do we know which one's going to be guaranteed or foolproof or the right app to, because yours sounds, by what you've said, you've ironed out all the negativities of where they fall over, and I like what this is doing far greater, and I didn't know the flaws in what the NHS app do and the Google app. But how do I know for the rest of the country or the rest of the whichever sector you take this, how do we know that I would rather use your app, or this is the right app to use, or the best app to use?
I mean, I use the word app, but there actually is no app to down. There is no app to download on your phone. This will just be a web page. So on your personal device or whatever device you use to access the internet, all you would do is go to use your web browser. There will be some interaction between your web browser and the bracelet to register it on the system. But once that's done, the app is actually the bracelets that you wear, not the app on your phone. You could once you've arrived at work, you can leave your. And that was the other thing Stuart and I discussed, is there are some environments where you're not allowed to take personal devices. So this would allow you to leave your personal device or whatever device you've accessed the internet with, and just leave it in the van or in the locker, and it's just the bracelet that you wear.
Okay, understood. So just the last one, and then I'll let other people ask. But now I'm wearing a Bluetooth bracelet.
Yeah.
You mentioned you get up in the morning and you fill in a quick survey. Does that mean I've now jump onto my phone or my computer to link to, just to understand that little clarification, to give your daily update?
Anything that's got a web browser, so you could use your phone, you could use your tablet, or you could use your computer.
Okay.
Or if you're really sad, I suppose you could try and do it on your Apple Watch.
Well, yeah,
but it might be a bit small.
No, I understand. It's just okay. Thank you.
I mean, to be able to do things in the sort of time frame, it would be very challenging to do an app, a real true app that went onto an iPhone and an Android phone, an Android device.
Totally agree. 100%. This is a better route.
Yeah. A bit of a question on sort of the battery life world, and I know you're not specifically looking for a device as such, but I have a simple sort of cheapish Garmin type thing that I use as a fitness tracker when I'm out running. But I charge it fully charged in the morning. I can probably get a good hour, 2 hours worth of walking the dog on a GPS, and I might be able to get a half-hour's run of an evening on here, as per government guidelines, of course, following the. But that's all I get, really. So having something that's constantly pinging the satellite, pinging the where am I type world, and pinging the Bluetooth backwards and forwards and the data, having that live update, I would possibly be concerned. Whereas if it uploaded it at the end of the day, I could see that. So you could track what had happened today rather than having a live sort of world going on.
We haven't built one of these, so I don't know how long the battery will last. What I can say is that these low-cost fitness bands from China typically last about a month. The battery life for these is about 1 month.
Yes, but the key thing there is that it's tracking a footfall of some sort. So you get steps.
But it also Bluetooth links to your phone. So if I get a phone call on my phone, it all comes up on the display.
but to get a location of where I am precisely, it needs to connect to the GPS.
No, we're not going to use GPS, because the problem with GPS is it doesn't work in the building.
No.
Right.
And that's why we're going to have this network of Bluetooth beacons that are all connected by a LoRaWAN network. So the Bluetooth beacons will be able to say, I am at the entrance of building 58 or whatever. So you can tether people. You can tether people based upon which Bluetooth beacon they're nearest, and then the bands themselves will form a sort of mesh that so they can work out where they are in relation to each other.
So sorry, I was going to ask you.
Go on, James.
Sorry, would you see a construction company buying a set of these and then issuing them out to their workforce, just like they would issue out a set of gloves or a helmet or glasses or whatever it might be?
Yes. I mean, that was very much when Stuart and I discussed this. I viewed this as being just like another piece of PPE somebody had to wear when they were on a construction site.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah, happy with that, because that means that when you get to the end of the day, as you leave the site, you put it in some sort of cradle to charge it, so it's charged up. So when you get on site, it's already charged to go, and away you pick it up.
Yeah, there were and that gets round this issue of am I being tracked outside the work environment?
Yeah, gotcha. That's good.
I've got a question coming from Henry. Before I do that, James, you wanted to say something. Do you want to jump in?
Sorry, I was just curious on the when you get to site, when the app's sorry, it's not an app, but when it's you've created the web browser and stuff like that's going to collate. How's it going to work? Is this going to be a charge to the client, to the main contractor, to the public that's going to be wanting to track this? And then also, what about the Bluetooth beacons? I mean, have you looked at the cost of what it would set somebody back? I know it's great data, but the costs that would set it back for setting this environment up.
I think this can be done at relatively low cost, and I would imagine that this is going to be down to the cost for the main contractor. I mean, I'm not sure about who pays for the bracelet, but the Bluetooth beacons can be relatively low. I mean, they can be the Bluetooth beacons and LoRa devices can be very low cost. There are not here. Yeah. I mean, this is a Bluetooth beacon, a Wi-Fi access point, and a LoRaWAN device all together. I mean, retail, these are 20 quid.
Wow, that is awesome.
Oh, it's not in a box, and it doesn't have a battery. But I mean, I think you could probably put these in a suitable box with the LoRa antenna for under 50 quid. And they're light enough that you can probably stick them on the wall with just some double-sided tape.
Amazing.
What kind of range have you got with those?
One of my engineers is testing. But that's the reason for using the LoRaWAN capability, is that you can then dot them around, and the beacons can talk amongst themselves, and you're not requiring a long range for any one device. I mean, the spec sheet says you should be able to get over 1 kilometre out of one of these devices.
Wow,
amazing! That is amazing. I need one of those right now.
I mean, it's a very low data rate. It's not for browsing the internet. This is just for sending little messages around.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very impressive.
Yeah. Got a question from Henry. This relates to heat maps and congested areas. If you have so many people in one area and all of them are alerted, they may all leave at the same time and create a risk with their tasks. They may create another congestion on the way out. Is there an ordering on who should leave and a threshold alert for site workers? Interesting.
That's a very good question, and one we will have to consider when we design the app.
Yeah, good question, Henry. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure that they're all going to say, no, I'll leave. It's fine. I'll leave.
We'll definitely factor that in. I've got another question came in as well from Peter Jarman. This relates to your question, Ian, regarding charging. So
before you jump into that one, Stuart, just coming back to your point about when you get to a threshold as such.
Yeah.
Have we engaged with any health and safety departments on a construction site, and is that something that we ought to be shouting at here? Has anybody got health and safety construction health and safety organisation which is looking at this at the moment, and would they want to get involved and engaged to help us to understand what those thresholds are and what the rules might be?
Yeah,
when
absolutely. Yeah. No, it's a good point, and it's one we've already started to engage.
Good.
Because it is a potential issue. So yeah, just going back to Peter's question, and this follows on from what you were saying, Ian. The 450 people on a site, and it's the peak of the construction operation. Do you envisage there being 450 plus charging points or locations where the things can be put on charge? But yeah,
I think the answer is I don't know. We'd need to think about that. A lot of these devices you can just charge with a USB cable. So it may be that you just encourage the user to switch it off and take it home and plug it in to the charging, to use their USB cable in their car or the van as they drive home.
Yeah,
I don't know is the answer. I mean, that's one of the practical aspects we would need to resolve for the project.
How long is it going to take to complete this, do you think?
What, the charging? The development? I mean, I think we can probably, I hope, I'm confident we'll have a working system in 3 or 4 months. You know, it is going to take that sort of time to pull everything together. So.
And how do you plan to get this out there to let the rest of the world know?
That's why we partnered with COMIT. Stuart said that bit was easy.
Okay, I like a challenge.
And just one that I'm going to sharp in a minute, but I'm really intrigued by this. What about sectors?
Yeah, in fact, I discussed this with a colleague on the telephone call the other day, and she said, "How about school children?"
Wow, there you go.
Because you know, young kids tend not to have smartphones, and they're not allowed to take them into class either.
I think the world's going to change pretty soon now. I think it's the right idea to go this way rather than an app on the phone, because the kids will still not be allowed a phone. But if they can wear a little band around the wrist with a Bluetooth, which is keeping track of whatever you measure, it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I read an article yesterday. So Juniper, an American company who produces networking equipment, have started trialing a similar idea in their office in the US, and they're looking at it for how to do social distancing in the office environment. Again, to identify where the hot corridors doors are, where people are walking, so they can maybe relay out the office.
And just other things that you could probably look out there is one in hospitals, so tracking patients and doctors and how they link together, but also people like prisoners, because we've got a real problem in the prison environment. Where
you have personal experience, do you, Ian?
Well,
you go in and sell that one.
Well, you hear about it's not so much about the prison environment for stopping them doing anything bad. It's the prison environment for actually being a very close packed environment, where transmission is very easy, and obviously making sure people are the correct distance apart from each other, very important. So I think there's lots of other industries which could benefit from this one, but I think construction as a whole has got sort of the edge on this, because we need to get people back to site. We need to get them back to site safely, because it's a hazardous environment enough already, and also being able to not only do this from a corona point of view, but also I'm thinking, I mean, we talked in the past, and we've had many projects on keeping people away from dangerous environments.
Yeah.
So they're not crossing dangerous. It's like the one fatality we had on the Crossrail project, and the guy crossed the area that they shouldn't have. And if he'd obviously done it a few times before and thought he could get away with it one more time. And if that had been picked up, then a bit of re-education would have been in order. So yeah,
and we certainly included that in the use case that we gave to Innovate UK, to say that this monitoring of where people on site are making sure they're not in exclusion zones is an ongoing challenge in the construction sector.
Yeah.
Okay, couple more questions. How to get involved? I'm going to leave that till the next slide. I've got a link which people can sign up to. I've got more questions coming in. Okay, thanks, Tony. The range, the 1K range of the beacons is great, but what is the range of the bracelets that send back the signal in the beacon mesh? How is handover handled?
So actually, in terms of the bracelets, you actually want the range to be as small as possible. If the range is too large, then you'll get a lot of false positives. So one of the issues is I may be sat in my home office here. My wife is sat in the living room behind me. We're perfectly safe because there's a wall in between us. So you actually don't want the bracelets to be able to transmit the Bluetooth too far. In terms of the beacons, it was the LoRa connectivity that gives you the kilometer connectivity. So that allows you to be able to cover a site with beacons that can talk to each other rather than just being the isolated beacons.
Okay, and Peter makes a point, the device would also be a great help for the emergency service to locate individuals.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that one.
In complex environments. And the next question I've got here is from Henry, will it be free? Yeah.
If you get involved in the trial, then there will be some free stuff, but you're in return for your time, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we're at the end of the hour there. If you want to join, we're going to carry on the conversation after this session, or after the hour rather. I wanted to say one other thing, and if I can just go on to my slide, I want to talk about how to get involved. I've actually set up a link, and if you just bear with me a second.
Giving you back, yeah. I'm giving you back the presenter.
Yes, thank you. So just skipping on, if I can just do that. Okay, so this is the link. We've got a briefing set up for 10:30 on the 29th. But please sign up, and what we will do is indicate next steps. But if you are interested, I know that quite a few of the people that have attended are interested. Please go to that particular site and sign up. Fantastic. Thank you very much for everybody joining in. I know some people have only got an hour, committed an hour to this, so great. Thank you very much, and thanks for the questions and turning up today to see what it was all about. I've got a screen freeze. Thank you very much. I say to Andrew, we've got some sessions coming up in the next few weeks. They will be on the website. Yeah, screen freeze again. So we've got the 29th, we've got asset management, facility management, and then we've got another one that people have asked for is the progress made in reducing damage to underground utility and infrastructure during construction. We've got two more coming up, and I couldn't confirm them at the time of putting this slide together, but we've got two more, one on the 12th of June, one on the 19th. I'm trying to give everybody a look ahead because I'm being asked questions about, what have we got coming up and can we contribute? Absolutely, you can contribute. Just get in touch if you've got an area topic that can help with productivity and move things forwards in an effective, efficient way. Get in touch with me. Really appreciate it. So yeah, join the conversation. All the recorded sessions are made available on the website, so please look out. Just go to the homepage, the COMIT homepage, which is shown there, and here we are in the conversation. Those that want to stick around, then we can open the mic and you can ask questions directly to any of us. So thanks again. Ian, do you want to say anything to finish the session?
I think you've said it all. Thank you, Stuart, for organising these. Thank you, Andrew and James, for joining us today. I think the more we keep these conversations going during this period, the better. It's always in times of crisis that our industry advances further, and I think what I've seen over the last 4 or 5 or 6 weeks actually of doing these happy hours is that the COMIT membership has got some really clever people who passionately want to change our industry for the better during this. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining us today, and I shall continue in the bar with Stuart, James, Andrew and Jerry, but for the rest of you, jolly good health and keep safe.
Okay, thanks Ian, thanks everybody. Anybody that wants to speak, I can unmic, I will unmic everybody, and anybody can join in. Pardon?
I think it's your round at the bar.
It is indeed. It's a free bar. I've got okay, I've got a question. Oh, it's a statement really. Thanks Henry, thanks for joining. You too, have a great weekend. So anybody that wants to join us, please do. I'll unmute everybody.
Muted.
When you're putting together the thought process, so obviously it's got lots of different facets. Are you going to be recommending a particular type of technology? So obviously the actual solution is the website or the web service as such that does all the bits behind it. But then there's going to be types of hardware that it'll work with and types of hardware that it won't. So I'm presuming you're going to put out some sort of list to say, these are the things we recommend. These ones we don't quite recommend, so because they're going to be absolute buggers to do anything with. So I'm presuming there's.
I think for this sort of first phase, it's going to be this is the equipment, and this is the service.
Have you got who's the target audience? I know we're in the construction field. I know this is something that could be used worldwide, really. Let's be honest. But who is there a target audience, or is this? Let's see where we can go with this.
I mean, my circle of contacts is mainly house builders, so we'll certainly go and try it with house builders. We did have some chats with people on capital projects, didn't we, Stuart?
We did. That's right. But there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity where you've got a huge gathering of individuals like house building, but also some of the larger infrastructure projects as well. I mean, this is something that James alluded to a few weeks ago, where you mentioned about the opportunity to help in the crisis with VisiLean's own software, you know, and the scheduling of operations. And I'm wondering whether there's some opportunity to create some synergy with that. James?
Yeah, so we're obviously, we've just created, I mean, we're predominantly in the construction industry, but we're working across utilities as well and highways and stuff like that. But we were asked by Mace if we could develop a safety distancing feature. Now, it's not from the app or not from that side of it. It's more about the collaborative planning. So they have to do their look ahead planning sessions. So they look ahead for the next 3 to 12 weeks of what's happening. So what we've done is we've built into the platform the ability to put the quantity of workers that can work in any one space, zone, area, location. So when they're planning the work, that they don't overbook, they can't put too many people in because it will tell them that they've exceeded the amount of workers. It also goes, so that's the planning stage, rather than just having a tracking type beacon which says that you've got too many people in an area or close. This will allow you to plan better, and the client or the owner gets to see a better visibility. So we're offering that opportunity, and I don't know if there's some sort of leverage or some tie-ups down the line, is one question. But the other question is, do you see Highways England and people like that as a good opportunity? Because we've had some great success in the last couple of weeks, that we might be able to present this for you to them, as in at the top.
Absolutely. Anywhere that I mean, even remote workers. Remote workers is a challenge, but this is about you know, controlling the risk, if you like, to bigger organisations as well as small ones. And you know, it's a great opportunity. And you know, people will be banging the table now saying, I want it tomorrow. I want it as soon as possible. So Andrew's got his work cut out to actually, you know, to develop the clever bit.
I'm hoping his wife's actually developing in the other room while we're talking.
well, of course, the project doesn't officially start until the 1st of June, so we're already pushing hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think the points are some good points, but I think one of the key areas would be health and safety, because COVID-19 is going to be, I think, one of two things. It's going to be either wonderful and just go away and leave us alone, or be more likely and be COVID-20, COVID-2021. There'll be variants will roll forward. But the idea of health and safety and proximity is something that is an ongoing thing around construction that's sort of been there forever. And I think if we can use location in an intelligent way there, and the COVID data is kind of almost like a value add.
Yeah.
Then you, Ian's just told me I'm upside down again.
No, you're the right way up.
You're definitely the right way up.
How's that?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Brilliant. Okay. Basically, my thought is if you go from the health and safety perspective, you've got a straight benefit there that's going to apply to sort of lots of things. You don't have to have a debate about, is it COVID related? I appreciate your funding's COVID related. I completely get that. But I think if we can use the diary side that James mentioned, I mean, Ian shared something on LinkedIn during the week about a diarying tool, which got me thinking along the same lines sort of in advance. The proactive gets people thinking, who have I got in the area, who's coming together, and then you use location as an additional on top of that. And I think the health and safety one's a really, really good angle, because it's bigger than I think the noise that there is around COVID.
Yeah.
Well, what we're looking to do, Roger, is share this as far and as wide as we possibly can. I talked about, we talked about Highways England there. We've got links and leads in there, and anything we can do, Network Rail, TfL, the owners. We've got house builders that expressed an interest. Looking at all the major construction companies, pretty much anybody that's got a capital build program in any shape or form or whatever. Maintenance is another area we can look at. Oil and gas, we've already approached them. Nuclear, we haven't been there yet. That's another one. So, and I even think, I think there's potential to, look beyond as well. Andrew, you touched on it earlier, but I do think there's opportunity, and I'm, the technology that Andrew's been sort of demonstrated today and what he showed us already, I think, there's potential that could go even further. To be honest, I think using some of that clever and I would say inexpensive tech, I think there's other applications here as well. But you never know until you get started, and really we need others. We need people to get involved and make suggestions and build it from the ground up, as Andrew said at the beginning.
Well, I'd be very interested to get him to know more, Andrew. So and Stuart, please keep me in the loop with it. I'll be intrigued to know where it takes this, what we can do together, what we can't, what personally I can get involved with. Like to help. Very good.
Sure. Okay. Good. Right. Well, that's it. The bar's just about to close. The landlord just called last orders.
I look forward to hearing more about this and working together.
Okay. Well, all the information I'll share through the website. There is a sign up page as well, which is very similar to the go-to page that everybody signed up to come here today. So there will be some more information, and And the date that we're going to do this is next Friday at 10:30. We'll have a half-hour session with an update, and hopefully all those that have been involved today can will have signed up, plus a few more next week. Rather. Okay.
Anything I can do, I'm here to help as well. So whatever I can
Great.
offer.
Great.
Fantastic.
Anybody else? Anybody else got anything to pitch in with, just to finish off with?
All good. All good. I think it's the my glass is empty and I need to go and find another bottle.
You do indeed.
Bank holiday.
Brilliant.
My teeth come to the bottom.
Take care. Cheers, Roger. Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend all. Take care.
Cheers. Bye for now.
Bye.